The importance of VACS, which is validity, authenticity, currency, and cost effectiveness and sufficiency in relation to assessment. Um, so, in my opinion, the VACS in this particular learner, which in this case is his name is A learner, he was a sweeper. He missed the VACS, as I believe, in a number of areas. Firstly, uh, although the evidence is valid in terms of what was being assessed, the evidence provided, particularly firstly in his portfolio of evidence toolkit, his ID mismatches in various places. There is no copy of his ID to verify his ID number and or his name and date of birth. The second is that his school certificate is a copy which was really badly scanned and placed into his evidence portfolio in such a way that you cannot actually make out who the certificate is made out for, what it covers in terms of the levels of learning that's required for this particular job, which is the sweeper. So, although he's got a grade 8 and that was signed off for the job, I don't see whether he's actually has got his grade 8 or not. And also, it is not certified. The second important thing I believe in terms of the VAX in terms of validity is that he placed some photographs into his portfolio. Firstly, the two photographs were he stated these were him. They're clearly two different people. And the other thing is it has got clearly indicated that it comes off a stock sheet of photographs off the internet, which raises an eyebrow in terms of validity. Because I don't know the learner and I have not seen what the learner looks like, I would never be able to verify whether this was really him or not. It was not signed off by his mentors, so the evidence is not corroborated in terms of validity, which makes the evidence unauthentic. I also do believe that the evidence is missing in terms of sufficiency. Um, I have two video clips, which are training video clips. Uh, Fine, but they're not of him actually doing the work. So, although he says he can do it and his knowledge supports that he knows what he should be doing, we never ever see him actually do the work. This again is a problem because his workplace logbook is not signed off either by his mentor or supervisor. So we cannot see a sufficient process of evidence in terms of that. And so at the face value, it looks good, and he may well be able to sweep. But when you go and look at the evidence, there are of some holes. So I I would I believe that the assessment guide in itself in this instance is fine. However, I would prefer to have changed it somewhat um, and make it simpler for this particular level of learner. Um, the checklists are great, and you can see that he engages well in the checklists. Where there's a requirement for a lot of detailed writing and or support of reference to evidence, that's difficult for him. So, what we should have in this instance is it should be digitized because it just makes it easier for us to see that he actually did the work and that he can do this in simultaneous in and with his mentor and supervisor. Uh, we don't have any video evidence of him actually doing the work. So maybe there's a problem there. And so in this case, I think things like chatbots would really, really, really help because the chatbot guides the learner without giving him the answers or without leading the learner to the answer, but guides him through a process. And the learner then can think systematically and be able to do it. I really do believe that although a checklist was completed and it said that he had done his work, there were a lot of missing checks on that. And what then is competence in terms of the company's process? Um, so I I also think that we then do need to adapt assessment guides and tools in terms of learners and the levels of the learners, and the reporting doesn't need to be so fraught with written work. It can be as they indicated, an interview, which didn't really happen. There's no evidence of this interview that they say that should happen there. And he preferred an interview as opposed to written. So we do need to be guided by the learner's ability in terms of literacy and proficiency of written work and process. And I really do recommend that these assessment guides become less convoluted instead of having sections and detailed sections that we have for a portfolio guide. Um, we need to use more of the type of assessment process that P4P offers, where the person is guided to placing evidence as they find it into an electronic portfolio. This needs to be visual rather than written. So I do believe we need to use more icons and or chatbots to help a person who's more of a visual learner and a lower level learner to be able to work through systematically the process. We have huge assumptions that the learner understands assessment as we as assessors do, and this is a misconception. Particularly learners like our hero sweeper, um, who really would not know that in his life, but does a very good job. So we need to be able to close those gaps between what he can actually do and the evidence he provides for us to be able to sign him off. And yes, I think that I chose this selected. I selected the sweeper because I do a lot of work at in the workplace. I'm an assessor for workplace assessment and competence, and I do see that the the use of more observational and demonstrating competence has increased in the assessment world. We now need a way of recording this to satisfy the needs of VACS, and that's why I think digital assessment will work, and also photographic video types of evidence. All supervisors and assessors and mentors and people from junior management all the way through to the top have an access to a cell phone. Most cell phones now are Android and have a photographic capability, and I really do think we can utilize these. And obviously, where we can't, we need to make a plan and step in. So, yes, that's the end of my selfie around VAX. And this is the end of my artifact 9 um, and how VAX is applied to the learner sweeper and why VAX is important. And I also think I've covered how the learner in this particular instance missed the VAX and how we can adapt the assessment guide and reporting tools for different types of assessments and preferably for digital. Thank you.